good morning, guys. Welcome to another Monday morning coffee chat. Thought I would go over a couple of things that would help you become a better fisherman based on what we experienced a couple weeks ago when we went to Mexico and Lake Falcon down there. We fished with a couple of different guides, and my dad and I were just old redneck fishermen. And my dad fished tournaments in the 70s and 80s, and so he was used to kind of an older style of tournament fishing, crankbait in the front, worm in the back, and no electronics, all of that. So that's all we've done growing up. We just pound the bank certain times of the year and fish for walleye and catfish the other times of the year. That's kind of the way we've always done things. But I learned some stuff from those guys, and I think they'll help make me a better fisherman for sure without spending a whole bunch of money. It's really more attitude adjustment than anything. But I got 6 things that I think they exhibited on that trip that will help me and in turn help you become better fishermen. The first one is to fish fast. And you know, these guys, everywhere we went, line in the water all the time and throwing quick, bringing it back quick, throwing quick, bringing it back quick. No BS, no time to sit down, no drinking coffee like I'm prone to do. As a matter of fact, I had a coffee thermos with me, and he kind of jabbed me for it a couple of times. He's like, "You're not going to catch any fish. You're sitting back in the back of the boat drinking coffee." You know, these guys are fishermen, and they go. As soon as they're on the water, they're fishing. So fish fast. The second thing is they fished in uncomfortable positions. And so when I fished before, I have to deal with wind. Just based on where I live, we deal with wind all the time. And my idea was always to get on a bank with the wind and let the wind drift me as I fish the bank. The problem is you can't control how fast it's going to move you, and they can if they will face into the wind with their trolling motor unit. And so they would troll into the wind and fish the bank. And a couple of things happened. The first one was they could control how fast they were going, and the second thing is it slowed the fishing way down. And so I used to be really hard pressed to fish a worm, any kind of subtle presentation in the wind, because you're moving too fast to do it. If you fish the opposite and you can slow yourself down with your trolling motor, you can still fish worms and finesse rigs and slower presentation baits in high wind conditions. It makes a world of difference. And also uncomfortable situations. They would fish super shallow where their boat would get hung up, but fish are in there, they're going to be in there. They'd fish way out deep on the lake points even whenever it was windy and you're rocking all over the place. It's not comfortable, but that's where the fish are, and that's where we need to be fishing. So fish into the wind, fish those uncomfortable positions, and you'll catch more fish. That's just kind of the way that goes. Move often. These guys had all of their little unique points mapped out and ready to go for the day, and they would motor to a spot, and they would get the trolling motor out, and they'd start throwing whatever the bait was. So for us, it was mostly spinner baits and flipping, and they'd get there, throw a couple times. You know what? If we didn't catch a fish, we'd move, and move often. Don't get hung up on one specific spot. Find the fish. And then once you find them, then you can kind of start patterning them and honing in on where to catch the larger fish. So that was something else, that always be moving. And if a spot is unproductive, doesn't matter if you caught fish there yesterday, may not be productive today. So always move. Those guys were constantly on the move. The other one is probably the only one that's going to cost you anything. They utilized their electronics heavily. They really leaned on their electronics. And so the guides, when they fished the front of the boat, their eyes never came off their electronics. They were always looking. They had the side imaging, they have the down scan, they have the GPS. They're always looking at all the stuff on our electronics. And I know some of the things you're going to say, it's expensive, blah, blah, blah. I understand. You can spend $2,000 on an electric unit. However, you can also spend $200 on a Helix 5 or $300 on a Helix 7 and get almost the same stuff on there. Yeah, it's a little older. It's a couple of years outdated technology, but it's a get-her-done electronic unit. Growing up, we had electronics, but all it told us was the depth, and it looked like you were playing Atari, on the bottom. It was like, little megapixels, and it just was bad. The new electronics are amazing. Spend some money there and heavily rely and learn how to utilize those electronics. I just bought one. I don't really know what I'm doing with it yet, but it's already put me on fish that I would not have been able to catch in years prior, just simply because I'm able to read contour lines and depths and side imaging and all of that. It's an amazing technology and advancement. Buy some electronics, learn how to use it, and utilize it whenever you fish. It'll dramatically improve the amount of fish that you catch, as well as the quality of fish. Okay, sorry, I've got my notes down here. Always keep your lure in the water. I was hunting with a friend this past year, and he said if there's no lead in the sky, nothing's dying. Always keep your lure in the water. And so you're not going to catch any fish if you're sitting in the boat wringing your hands because you're not catching any fish. Always be fishing. When you're on the water, always be fishing. Keep your lure in the water. Make sure that you're always trying something different. We have thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we carry around with us if you're a bass fisherman. Utilize that stuff. Always be throwing things. Always be throwing things. The last thing, practice. Practice. We're not professionals. If I'm lucky, I'll be on the water 50 times in 1 year. If I'm lucky, more likely probably 35 to 40. So we have to practice these things. So they had a pitching technique that I had never used before, and you could tell I was very poor at it. But over the course of a couple of days working with the guide, I got fairly good at it. And now when I get home, I'm able to sit in my garage and actually practice in my garage. Most of us throw with an overhand cast, and that's not necessarily the best one. And if you'll practice those things, you will become much better on it. And the great thing about practice is you can do it off the water. You can do it in your house. You can do it in your living room. If you don't know how to tie a lot of knots, practice tying knots while you're watching television. It's very, very simple. Go buy some cheap monofilament, and you can sit and with a swivel, and you can practice all night on one knot. And the next time you go fishing, you'll have it down. It's an amazing thing. So practice. Those 6 things, those guides did that us normal fishermen don't do. And I think it'll separate you from being an average fisherman to being a really good fisherman. So hope that helps. Hope you take something away. God bless you guys. We'll catch you next time.